Hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of The Bold Leap. Today I have Keri-Lynne Shaw, otherwise known as KL. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So this show is about really highlighting women who have left the corporate world and started an online coaching business. I know you do so much more than that, but that's what the show is about, to inspire others who are considering doing the same thing. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that our tech's working. So if you're watching and you can see us and you can hear us, let us know. Give us a little heart emoji in the chat here. Yep. Looks like it's working great. Amazing. So Keri-Lynne, I'm just going to call you KL because that's what I call you. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do in the world.
Usually you call me gorgeous or beautiful or something else too whenever you leave me messages. They're always so sweet. Tell you about me. Well, I spent 3 decades in corporate. I had no idea throughout my corporate career what I was doing in terms of navigating it and designing this beautiful roadmap that I now help people do. A lot of things happened because I said yes. And I'd say that's the red thread. I said yes to every opportunity because I was curious and I wanted to learn and grow. And I fell into HR by maybe nothing is an accident, but I fell into the HR space because someone said, we see you as high potential and we think you would be really great in this role. I said, how do I spell HR? Did not honestly have any interaction at all with HR, which many people would say, well, aren't you lucky? Because a lot of HR, my experience with clients is that their HR isn't necessarily as in the business or supportive, which is really sad to me because I am so proud of the work that we did in HR and creating people first mindsets and cultures. So yeah, I fell into HR and it was right where it was supposed to be. And it turned out to be the biggest gift that could have truly ever happened, because I figured out during that time that one of my gifts was to help people unlock their potential. And what better place to do that than be in charge of all the people. So I did that for about a decade and got my coaching certification at the same time. And I did not know, like my other cohort, my team in my group, they were all launching coaching businesses. I did not realize that that's what I was going to end up doing. I did it more to have some foundational values around how do I help people be the best version of themselves in their career, because people came to me every day asking for advice. And so little did I know that would turn into a coaching business. And little did I know that a boy I met at 18 years old who had a car dealership, who taught me everything about automotive, that entrepreneurial mindset, being 8 years with that person, how that also really morphed into me then becoming an entrepreneur. And it's so funny when I look, I'm 53, so I look back at the thread of my career and how it led me to where I am. It's like, okay, now that makes sense. So here we are. And yeah, fully 2 years into having my own company. It's one of the most challenging things I've ever done. It is one of the most raw and real experiences I've ever had of truly having to look in the mirror. It's one of the most fearful experiences I think I've ever had.
Yeah.
Wall in on you. You better be ready because your baby's ugly some days. And you really, I looked in the mirror, I was like, ooh, what am I seeing? Like there was a lot that came out of this experience that has made me 10 times the human that I was prior. So I'm so grateful for every piece of this journey.
Love it. Well, we are so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful to have met you. It's so interesting that you use that language. I looked at myself in the mirror and the baby was ugly, because when I first started, I remember I had a coach and he specifically said, being an entrepreneur is going to take you to the mirror and you are going to look at yourself, and every fear and every insecurity and all of the things you've been avoiding are going to present themselves, and you are going to have to deal with it before you move on to the next level. And I remember at that time thinking, I'm good. Isn't that just so funny? Like, to think of it now, I was like, man, I'm good. I was so disconnected from myself. Wow, that's super, super inspiring. So what was it? So you've been in business how long now? 3 years?
I launched officially a year ago on Valentine's Day, but I started to design the concept 2 years ago, because my goal was to build a digital program. And so it took me some time to build that, to record that, to bring that to life. So yeah, 2 years almost.
Got it. Got it. And was there a specific event that that was like the catalyst to this, or was this just a natural progression for you?
No, the catalyst was I'd been doing the work for 10 years. Before side hustle was a phrase, and but I never monetized it because I thought, oh, that should be my full-time thing if I'm going to monetize it. So the monetizing of it was going to be in retirement. My idea was I'm going to bring this to life when I retire. And I decided to pull it ahead because I had been interviewing for my next chief people officer role, and I kept coming in second. And that was new for me. I was like, oh, what is happening here? What is the universe trying to send me message wise? And I had some phenomenal opportunities and experiences, but they weren't coming to fruition. So I was doubting myself. I'm thinking, like, what is happening? I woke up one day with the idea, the name came to me. And I happened to have a couple of friends for dinner that weekend and then later that week. And I was like, I have this idea. What do you think? And they both went bananas over it. One happened to be also a producer and a director, and he is the one who brought my beautiful program, my digital program, to life. And I just started writing. I had never built modules. I had never built a training program. I knew what it meant to get in the driver's seat of your career. And I knew how to negotiate because I sat on that side of the table for a decade and watched most people interview and negotiate badly. And if I look in the mirror, I didn't negotiate for probably the first 2 decades of my career. I didn't know I could. I was afraid they'd think I was greedy. And I always felt like I needed to prove myself first. And those are all the reasons why people don't do it and why the stats are so real. I have been doing this for 10 years, helping people, helping guide them when they call and say, KL, I hate my boss. Can you help? KL, they're jerking me around. They say I'm going to get a promotion, but they've been telling me this for 12 months. Can you help? KL, I just got fired. KL, I'm interviewing for a new role. Like my kid just graduated college. Like a million things kept coming to me over this decade. And so I had been practicing it and also watching most people do it badly and then taking notes on the ones that did it really well. And crafted this beautiful program, which then went alongside my one-on-one coaching. And even since I launched, the business has evolved in so many beautiful ways that just because I keep stepping into it and saying yes to it, and clients are telling me and coming to me at different stages. So I'm like, oh, there's a need here. Boom, let's launch this. So I've got a couple of sisters to my original program, a little stepsister that came in, and it's continuously growing every single day.
I love it. I love it. I just want to back up a little bit because I don't think we actually talked about how you help your clients. So tell us a little bit about how you help your clients now, because what you do is so, so needed. And I still remember my first conversation with you was talking to someone else on our network. I can't even remember who. And they said, do you know KL? You have to talk to KL. And I was like, who's KL? And then I talked to you and thought I really did need to talk to you. And now the more I talk to you, the more I want to talk to you. But can you just tell us a little bit about how you help clients, what your program's about? And then we'll start there and then see where it goes.
Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, it is actually a bigger niche than I realized also when I launched, because what I launched was something that I really am passionate about, that I'm really good at, and that is going to make an impact on the world. And those are the 3 questions that I ask every single client when they first meet with me. Because if you are able to do and live your days doing those three things, you will live a far more fulfilled life and career and be more successful at it. So it just happened by chance that I was really good at those things and I'm really passionate about them. And my mission is to do my part to close the gender and racial pay gap. So it's something that I believe very strongly in. So the company launched with the salary bump. And I was really specific that my clients were people who had just got job offers in hand. Call KL, let me help you turn it around. But I liked getting people a little bit earlier so they hadn't backed themselves into a corner, because people would come to me and they're like, yeah, I told them I want to make 150 and then they offered 150. It's like, no, we never talk numbers. We only talk ranges. So if I was to get them a little sooner, I could help them pave the way to an even better increase. But I was specific. So it was really about negotiation. Interview prep as well, and obviously mindset around scarcity versus abundant mindset around money. So that was what was launched. But I soon realized within a couple of months that people were coming to me more just stuck. They wanted more out of their career. They didn't know what they wanted. Maybe they had been laid off. They were searching. So the Salary Bump sister was born, and her name is the Career Bump. And that is a 3-month coaching program that I work specifically with people to help them get unstuck, help them get in the driver's seat. Negotiation gets layered on. So they share clothes. It's perfect because in every case of the Career Bump, we're negotiating something. And then the stepsister that came a little bit by surprise was because I had posted a couple of things about quiet quitting and about revenge quitting, and why that's the dumbest idea ever. Revenge quitting being the recent one. And people came out of the woodwork in helping them proactively get exit packages, get to exit. So that has been this beautiful surprise that, again, they share their beautiful siblings, because they, depending on where the client comes to me, if they're employed and they come to me as a Career Bump client, we're negotiating both a new and an exit. So there's always an opportunity, or people will come to me because they just got laid off. I help them negotiate more out of their package. So that was a bit of a mic drop moment. Whenever I talk to people about exit packages, most people don't realize they can proactively ask. And because I said yes, and I kept stepping into what was feeling right and what my clients were needing, there's going to be more sisters and brothers and more people that are, going to join this beautiful platform that has been creative and continuously evolving, as also I evolve.
I love it. I love it. I mean, it's so needed, so needed. And I remember last summer, I posted something about my journey and my experience with getting let go from my corporate job. And that was the catalyst for me to go into coaching. I knew I wanted to do something different. And one of the things that I did very successfully was negotiate my severance.
Good.
And I posted about that, and that post went viral. And the thing that people, reached out to me the most about was, how do you do that? And to be fair, it didn't even occur to me that people didn't negotiate that. Like I would never sign a job offer that's the first one that gets handed to me. I would never just accept a termination letter and sign on the dotted line. So can you talk a little bit about that in your experience, and why, like, I don't even know what you could tell people that are listening to help them navigate something like that, but what would you tell your clients if they got presented with an unexpected letter that they were told to sign?
Well, there's two different approaches. I like to actually help people proactively even before they get laid off, but let's answer yours for a moment. If this statistic doesn't give you some really powerful insight, I believe the number is 87%. In 87% of the cases, when you negotiate, the answer is yes.
Wow.
Almost 90% of the time, the answer is yes. And this is a recent stat that I read in Forbes or Fortune, or I can't remember where I saw it, but it is very, very real. So if that is the case and you don't ask, you're leaving so much on the table. And the ask doesn't have to be ugly. So I know the reasons why people don't ask, because they're embarrassed, because they're fearful, they don't know they can, it's like a terrible situation, they retreat, scarcity, like a million reasons why they don't ask. But in 90% of the cases, they're saying yes. So step number one, ask.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's teaching people how to ask appropriately, right? So what are the things that you can say? You never want to go in guns a-blazing. You want to be really thoughtful about being seen and heard, but that both parties feel valued. So ask is my first piece of advice. And I think know the market. Depending on your level as a CHRO, I would always have a bit of a calculation. So if you were VP and above, 1 month for every year served is perfectly appropriate. If you're at a director level, I still would encourage you to try for 1 month. Manager level, 2 weeks for every year served is very, very reasonable. And that is if you didn't already negotiate severance in your offer letter, which I also very much recommend. So I say director level 3 months, VP 6 months, C-suite 1 year. You negotiate that up front in the event anything were to happen. So if you were to be laid off 12 months into a new job, you have that cushion that you already previously negotiated. So ask, know your worth, know what the market is paying. You can research that. You can Google that. But if you want to proactively ask, there is a way to do that if something feels weird. I'm working with a bunch of clients right now who their boss is backing them to a corner. They had gone on maybe medical leave, they had accommodations, or they're putting them on a PIP. And when that happens, the turnaround is really difficult. So if people knew that your manager and HR were constantly talking about the organization, the design, the structure, what we need for the future, and always looking at resources, which is the most expensive thing inside any organization, those conversations are literally happening on a daily basis. So if you knew that, you now have some leverage to be able to raise your hand and say, listen, let's not make this difficult. I think it's obvious that our time is coming to an end. Let's talk about what a transition looks like so that we don't have to go through the ugly motions, and, that we make it work for both of us. Or they just did layoffs and you're nervous about the next layoff, and you have hear noise that more layoffs are coming. Raise your hand. I want to save someone else's job if that helps. I think I've tapped out. I've done everything that I want to do here. Let's talk about what that transition looks like. So there's always a way to have that conversation in a beautiful, dignified way.
I am sure that some people who are listening right now, their minds are blown, because most people aren't in a position to know that those conversations are going on every single day, and they are just part of business. I mean, at least every single quarter, those lists, we call them the lists, the reduction list, came across my desk, and I had to review it. And it really is just it's so interesting and almost embarrassing to say that it's just a part of business. But then when it's your turn, it doesn't feel like it's just a part of business, even though, it feels a little bit personal. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that even when I was in that position that I thought like that I thought that I could just go and have that conversation. So if somebody's feeling that way and they're feeling like, oh, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's time for me to go, and they do want to raise their hand, or because I know I've talked to a lot of people, and maybe you've experienced this as well, who just say, I'm done, I'm ready to quit. Like, I can't do it anymore. Is there something you would encourage them to do? Do they have an opportunity to ask for an exit package when they feel like, I'm just going to leave anyway?
Yeah, I do it every day with people. So you have to frame a story. There has to be context. If I think about a recent client who negotiated a massive package, $2.3 million.
Wow.
Long tenured, and it was time. There, again, she felt it. It was the right situation. It was the right timing. Or maybe you were looked for a promotion. Maybe you applied for a job, someone else got it, and now that person is your boss, and you and your boss are not getting along. There are a million reasons why you could say yes. It's about crafting your story. You could have just listened to the quarterly earnings results and seen how bad the company is doing. You hear noise about layoffs coming. You and your boss are not getting along. You can come forward and craft that story and say, listen, I think it's time, and I would love to talk about what a transition looks like. Maybe me raising my hand saves someone else's job. I know I'm heavy, in terms of cost for the company. And actually, I put some thought into the fact that I don't even know if you need to replace me. If you're open to hear, I think you can actually reallocate this work to so. My team is so strong, and I don't think you need this role anymore. Now, believe me, they're listening, because now they're really saving and not having to replace you. If that's not feasible and possible, and it's just a bad blood between you and your boss, you've made your boss's life easier by not having to terminate you. Those are not fun conversations. Not that that's what you sign up for as a leader or an HR, but you've just saved a difficult conversation from them having to do anyway, and they would have packaged you anyway. So it's very, very common that when you exit, you get a package. So why not raise your hand? There's literally no reason not to. No guarantee they're going to say yes, but I have only had one that didn't bite, and otherwise we've been extremely successful. So it's a question of whether you have something else lined up. You can also ask if you have something else lined up. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. You just have to craft your story.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And I can't even tell you how many times I've had not clients, but friends call me, because I feel like we're just at that age. So I'm 55, and after spending so much time, in an executive role, in a leadership role for a corporation, I think that it just I don't know if it's like an age thing necessarily, but it just happens. It's time, right? It's time for you to move on. The organization realizes how expensive you are. They're looking to cut costs. And so many of my friends, I don't know why I'm the first person they call, but they call me to tell me that they've been let go. And, they're feeling really disempowered and feeling really poorly about themselves, like they could have done something differently. And oftentimes they call me when it's too late. They've just accepted whatever was handed to them. And it just makes me so sad. It really does, because I feel like they believe erroneously, in my opinion, that they have to accept what's handed to them because that's standard. And because they're in a leadership role, they know what the standard exit package is.
Yeah. I think these are people, unfortunately, that are passively sitting in the driver's or the passenger seat of their career and of their life, and maybe going through the motions, as opposed to really getting the driver's seat and asking what they really want to do with their life, that they actually get to own that. Their company doesn't own them. And it takes you stepping into that role, you taking the wheel. That is the work that I do with my clients, because I don't want to live life passively, nor do my clients. So they're taking the wheel because they know that life will then just happen to them.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I really do love the work you do. I'm so inspired by it. So what would you say to somebody they're in their role and they're doing okay? They're doing okay. They would describe it as coasting, but they know their job and they're comfortable with it, but they do feel like they're underpaid and they would like to get in the driver's seat, but till now they have not been in the driver's seat and they've accepted it. How do you start?
Well, start by asking yourself the question, what do you want? And, if they're already asking the question, what do I want? What does the the next phase of my career look like if I got to write my own story, which you do? How do I want that to come to life? And do I need a partner to help me with that, right? Do I have a partner in my home, like my literal partner, or do I hire a coach to help me figure that out? Do I have friends? Can I start investigating? Can I start tapping people to say, you know, if you were to describe me, what would you describe me as? What do you think my special gifts are? Ask people to help unpack what your ikigai is so that you can really identify what is it that you really love, what really lights your fire. And a lot of people, I think, don't realize they can have both, and they compartmentalize their 9 to 5, that I tick the box on my 9 to 5 and then I do my hobby and my fun thing after my work. I think there's a way that you can blend both very well and very easily, but people maybe feel stuck. So, yeah, start by asking yourself the question and see, who do you need to surround yourself with to help you bring it to life and figure out, what is it that I could do with my special gifts? Is it a side hustle that I do to dip my toe in? Is it a completely different industry that I want to play in, tap into my network? I'll give you another stat, Lisa. 80% of jobs are found via your network.
Yes.
Not via LinkedIn posting and hoping you get a call back.
Right.
80%. So if you are not nurturing your network right now, you are so behind the 8 ball. You are so behind. Nurturing a network, fostering these relationships, thinking about how you give and receive. If you're not doing it, start yesterday. Download your contacts from LinkedIn. Go and see, who are the people that I want to be with. Go through your emails years back. Who are the people that have touched me over my career? Who do I want to know more? Who do I want to reignite some relationships with? How do I start meeting people on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
How do I build my brand and start reaching out to Lisa McPhee? We were strangers.
Strangers on the internet.
Like, it's crazy, right? Like, there's so many beautiful ways to lead people to coffee to get to know them. And then when you talk about yourself, talk about your special gifts and how you want to impact the world, not go through your resume. My first job was this and blah, blah, blah. No one cares. Connect with people and see what sparks, and then see if they can't open doors for you and introduce you. And who can you introduce them to? Because your special gifts might help their son or daughter who's just graduating college. You might be able to help them or get them connected. So it's all this beautiful circle of giving and receiving and sharing. And I think that's how people can really navigate their career in a new, fresh way.
I love that. I love that. And it's so true. We were strangers. I always make jokes. We were strangers on the internet, and we just spent a weekend together in Nashville. And that's so cool. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, unexpected. But you won't go there unless you put yourself out there and you live, in the lane that you think you're supposed to be in. Many people probably graduate college with a degree in something that they have truly no interest in, but they're doing it because they're going through the motions. And I studied engineering, so therefore I need to be an engineer. I have a client right now who is an engineer, and that's how he grew up and that's what he graduated from. And he was like, I got into my first job and it was like, there's got to be more to the story. And his curiosity to actually unpack what the customer really needs and what their pain points were brought him to get his MBA. And now he's like thinking about like this whole new way of describing his beautiful story. It started out because he liked tinkering and building things.
Yeah.
But he loves solving complex problems. And so he's crafting this beautiful story of his journey, and it doesn't have to be in one lane. I started by studying special ed. I thought I was going to be a special education teacher, and I quit school 7 classes shy of my degree. And
wow.
Moved to the US, sold cars. That's how I paid for college. And I fell into that industry and thought, oh, wow, there's something here. Applied for a job through a network and he worked for General Motors, and I sent him my resume, and he called me and he said, I'd love to hire you, but you don't have your degree. And I was like, wait a minute. Immediately signed up, finished my marketing degree, called him back 2 weeks later and said, I'm enrolled in school. You could actually hire me now, mold me, shape me. And then when I'm done school, sky's the limit. So he did. They did. They paid for my school, then subsequently paid for my MBA. And I had a beautiful 5-year career with this amazing company. And so that wasn't a direction that I thought. HR, didn't know how to spell, like becoming a coach, having my own company, not in a million years.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I know people, well, I help people when they're leaving corporate really leverage their corporate experience to, to monetize that in a coaching business. And when I started, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I mean, I hired a coach to help me figure out I wanted to be a coach. I mean, I just knew that I wanted to build something that was mine. I really wanted to build something that was mine, something I was proud of, something that would be my legacy, because until then, I was 49 at the time when I left corporate. Until then, I was on autopilot. I think many of us are on autopilot when it comes to our careers. And then when I did go out on my own, it felt scary, but also exciting. Like, it was exciting, especially the first couple of months when all of your, your friends in your old world are cheering you on and, saying good for you and all the, all the fun times. But then comes the real scary part where you have to really face your fears. Can we talk about that journey a little bit? Your experience going through that. I mean, did you experience that? I kind of made an assumption that you did, because I feel like we all do. What was the scariest part for you? Let's just start with what was the scariest part, and then I want to ask what was the most surprising part.
I would say I've always been a risk taker. I think I had 5 jobs in 5 years once at BMW. I said yes to every opportunity. So I always really believed in myself. I'm a very curious person and I'm a learner. So there is nothing that I haven't tackled or learned. I also am incredibly resilient in my personal life, having gone through a very serious tragedy. From one day to the next, I related everything to life or death. And so like we were not saving lives in automotive, and I navigated life or death, and I didn't let that stop me. So I stopped relating everything back to that 19 years later, because that's not necessarily healthy, but it did help me frame any risks that I was going to take. I think the biggest fear that I had, one of my maybe gremlins, if you call it, when we were studying our coaching program, they called it, what are your gremlins? And so that is like, what is like one of your triggers? And for me, it was not being good enough. I was not good in school. And I felt like if I didn't have good grades, that I wasn't smart enough. And I would doubt myself sometimes, even at the boardroom table, always surrounded by men. Can I be the heart-centered leader that I am? Or do I need to think like them because they're engineers? Everything is about process. I'm an intuition person and I'm a heart-centered person. It wasn't until what I uncovered about myself over the last year that I really have leaned into that as truly being my light. But before I leaned into it, my fear was, can I replace my income as a C-suite leader? Is this a viable business? I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I launched something. I knew what I was doing in terms of the actual result of coaching. That was never in question. I'd never built a program before. I had never launched a company before. I'd never done marketing. I'd never did my own taxes, bookkeeping. What is that? I hate finances. What every aspect of owning a company is, you are wearing literally every single hat. And I was creating it from nothing. I didn't have anyone to lean on that had created a company. My corporate girlies no longer got me. They were cheering me on, but many of them are not in my life anymore. So it's like this wild experience. It was until I met people like you and other founders and other people who went through building a business where we could really support each other. So I was fearful that I would fail and that I would then have to admit it to my family and to myself that I wasn't successful. I'm an overachiever, Lisa. I am a high achiever and always have been. And failure, well, I'm okay with like things failing and dropping, it's okay. But this was like the biggest thing I've ever done. So if it didn't work, how do I explain that? So I was fearful for sure.
Yeah. I think, I mean, as you were going through all of that, I was right there with you, feeling all of the things, especially when you said taxes, finance. What is that? Because I had no clue. And for the longest time, I mean, I make jokes about it now because it's funny, but it wasn't fun. It's not funny when you're in it. I mean, I didn't even look at my finance. I was just terrified. I was terrified of all of it. And I was scared to admit that. Not scared. I was embarrassed to admit all of that because it felt like I should know, or that's how I felt, was I should know better. I've managed like $100 million projects. I should not be scared to look at my own bank account, and deal with what's going on there. Yeah, all of it's terrifying when you first start.
It's also really hard, Lisa. Like I would be up at 3 a.m. I've never worked so hard in my life. And I thought I worked hella hard as a board member, or I worked my butt off. I have never worked so hard. But it was also positive stress. But positive stress can have a massive impact on you as well, and your body. Like that's not normal that I'm up at 3 a.m. and I'm working until 8 or 9 at night. I can't stop because there's literally no stopping. There's literally zero. There's never a day where I close my laptop and it's done.
Yeah.
So like that was also like launching a website, figuring out how the course came together, like checkout process, like all of it was a lot. And so because it was all new, it took so much longer to understand it. And then I would be triggered even more. I remember having moments with my web person and being so stressed because she's speaking a language that I don't speak.
Yeah.
And I would be like, I am not good enough to do this. Like how my brain is like stretched. And so then I would get frustrated and then I would spend more hours trying to figure it out. I'd say something interesting about launching a company, being an entrepreneur, solopreneur, oscillating between my CEO hat, and that feels different than my entrepreneur hat. Yes, they're similar, but like when you ask for help and when do you pay for help? Because before you start generating income, I'm putting money out there and I don't know if it's coming back.
Yeah.
So like knowing that and trusting that you need to invest in the right things. I invested in 4 coaches, Lisa, which was a massive financial investment. The best thing that I could have done because every one of them did something different for me and for my business. And I am so grateful that I decided to do that earlier on. I didn't do it right away. I probably could have pulled it ahead a little bit before I hit rock bottom. But having that support around me was just incredibly helpful.
I think that's so important. I mean, I also invested heavily in coaching. I did that from the very beginning because I knew that I had no clue what I was doing. And my biggest fear when I first started, because I had such an incredible network of women who supported me in my corporate work, like you described them, my corporate besties, I was terrified that I wasn't going to have that network as an entrepreneur, as an online business owner, because I had only, so my aspiration was to build something big. I didn't become a coach because I loved coaching. I became a coach because I wanted to start and grow a business, and coaching just made sense based on my experience and my love for talking and guiding others, through a transformation to get to a specific destination. But I never aspired to be a coach. I aspired to build a business. And so I had no idea what that looked like. So I did invest in coaching because it was important to me to find a community. Yeah, I'm so glad I did that. Even though I probably stayed in that one community a little bit too long, and it was really not an insignificant investment. I probably stayed there a little bit too long because the strategy was great, but then I got a little bit out of alignment when it came to sales because the process was a lot of bro marketing and things that just didn't feel aligned to me. But again, this was back when I was very disconnected from myself and had no awareness that it was an alignment issue. So then I invested in a coach to help me, with all the heart-centered stuff because I was so disconnected from myself. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Every day. You are an evolving human. Like, you are not the same person you were a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So yes, like holding the mirror up and, figuring out what is aligned and what feels good for you. That's why a lot of employees struggle inside organizations when there's values disconnects. When the company says they value something, but they don't show up that way. I've had it happen multiple times in my career where I'm like, I am out. Your girl is gone because you are not honoring these values. And that really impacted me and rubbed me the wrong way. So I think that authenticity and truly understanding who you are, what your special gifts are, and how you want to show up in the world is so crucial with any kind of alignment. It's just, you talk about it from a sales perspective. Many people don't like selling. Many people don't know how they're supposed to sell. Well, when you're showing up aligned and your light is shining so bright, you don't have to sell. You tell your story and you tell, you lead people to a solution in a smart way that feels really good and really authentic to you. You don't have to follow a step-by-step guide because everyone shows up differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely show up differently today than I did when I started. I was scared. I was scared of everything. And when people ask me what's the hardest part, okay, so I'm going to ask you and then I'll tell you what my answer is. What was the most surprising part of this journey that was hard that you weren't expecting to be hard?
All of it was hard. If I
Were
knew
you
if I
expecting it
knew
to be
it
hard?
was this hard, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Mm,
Maybe
mm,
if I had really thought that through, I was just following my heart.
mm.
Um, my biggest surprise has been this beautiful platform of LinkedIn and the community that you can create, whether you're a business owner or a W-2 employee. You have the opportunity to create a brand on LinkedIn that is standout, that is authentic, that will bring your people to you. And people don't realize it. There's only, the stats are like 3 to 5% of the billion people on this platform are actually creators. And you can be a W-2 employee and have a brand.
Yeah.
So I think the surprise of this beautiful community that I've built, some who have become my best friends, that I didn't know existed a year ago, where they have been my whole life. It's just mind blowing to me. And while that wasn't hard, that was just like such a beautiful result of saying yes to meeting as many people as possible. I meet 15 to 20 new people a week, Lisa. And
And
whether they will become a client or not, it doesn't matter. It's about furthering my connections. And if I can help them in any way in that 30-minute call, fantastic. I'm happy to do it. If it leads to something else, also fantastic. And if not, that's okay too, right? Um, I think there's a lot that we have to give. So there isn't a surprise of something that was really hard, just like, I'd say more beautiful surprises.
mm,
I don't think I've had more fun in my entire life. And I mean, I am having literally the time of my life. And I think that was even a surprise. And so when you lean into something that you really love and that you're really good at, sky's the limit. It doesn't even feel like work.
I love it. I love it. Some of our beautiful friends are chatting away here. I just realized Ricky and Macy and Lisa, all of
Hey,
you.
ladies!
I literally just saw them all chatting to us now. I was so engaged in conversation. I love that.
They're
I
so
love,
beautiful.
I know they're so amazing. I love that. I love that they're here. Um, the hardest part for me that was a surprise was actually the personal development. I was not, even though I was told I was going to be taken to the mirror, I was not expecting that, which is kind of funny because when I share this with other people, they, you know, they knew it was going to be hard. But I thought, and this might sound just so ridiculous, but Kale, I did not have a confidence problem when I started my business. I thought, okay, I'm going to invest in this coach. It was really expensive. It was a group program. There was a big community. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be surrounded by the right people. I'm going to be coached by this group of beautiful coaches that have built, you know, a multi-million-dollar coaching business. They're going to teach me how to do the same. I'm going to do the things, and I'm going to have $1 million business like year one. I know it's hilarious and laughable, but I truly believed that when I started. And then when it kind of wasn't I mean, I won't say it wasn't working, but it wasn't working in the way that I anticipated, because I had to do the inner work. That was so surprising to me and so hard. I was not expecting that at all. At all.
It's such a gift that you've given yourself, because the inner work is actually where it's at.
Yeah.
And that never stops, by the way. But, you know, if you believe that there's only two things you can control in life, and that is how you show up and how you treat others, I guess it's one and the same, then you sure better unpack that. And the sooner you start looking in the mirror and really evaluating the relationships and the things that frustrate you in your life. I mean, it's very easy to place blame, like, oh, it's my partner's fault. Yeah, he's just, you know, he's triggering me. Well, no, actually, they're your triggers. So yeah, that mirror is very hard to hold up, but I think it's the best gift for sure that I've given myself, and it sounds like you as well.
Same. Yeah. I really noticed, you know, speaking of triggers, if something is triggering to me, it would be so easy to just, you know, to just blame the person or blame the circumstance or just, you know, deflect what's really going on. But what I've come to do is really ask myself, you know, because I do accept 100% ownership for how I show up in the world. And if something is triggering to me, then I've taught myself how to reflect and ask myself the question of leaning, as you mentioned, leaning in with curiosity. And even if I don't believe the words when I say them, I will say, isn't that interesting? Even though I want to say, WTF, why are you doing this thing or saying this thing? Isn't that interesting that I'm feeling this way? I wonder where that's coming from. And then just kind of get a little bit curious. Where is that coming from, right? What happened in my life previous to this experience? Because it's never about the thing, right? It's never about the thing that's in front of you. It's about something else that happened that probably you may not even have had any awareness of. And when you get to that thing and you're able to work through it, it's always amazing. It's always amazing.
One of the things that I recognize is that as I've really done this inner work, when someone else is triggered, I also don't absorb that.
Yes.
And in the past, I might have been like, oh, did I say something wrong? Oh, yeah, I should have not. No, it's not about me. It's about them.
Yeah.
And if they want to come back and have a conversation but I've really learned to release that. And that has been such a gift, because if I have one regret, I spent way too much energy over my life worrying about what other people thought, or worrying about just, did I maybe say the wrong thing, and how I'm framing things, and not necessarily really leaning into, I was always very kind in how I delivered things, but my confidence sometimes ruffled feathers. Like if I said yes to a project that had nothing to do with my day job just because I was curious and wanted to fix it, and maybe like one piece of it came back to me in my job, people would be like, well, what is she doing sniffing around? Like, no, I'm just trying to do great work here, you know? So that wasn't about me. It was about them, their level of insecurity perhaps, or their triggers and what they hadn't done the work on. So I think I wish I would have spent a lot less time worrying, but that is something really freeing at this stage. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. And that has, yeah, I love that you brought that up because I do remember coach saying to me, or I don't actually know who said this to me, but when I had awareness that my work was being able to sit with someone who's uncomfortable with something, and
Mhm.
it's their work to figure that out and not take that on. So I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with work because I think everyone can relate to this. If a family member is upset with you, for example, like let's just pretend it's my mother, um, right?
Just pretend.
Let's just pretend. Yeah, I mean, this not real life, just hypothetical. So let's just say it's my mother is upset about something that was never communicated to me. This is actually such a real. My mother's never going to watch this. It's fine, but if she's upset with me because she had an expectation that was never communicated to me, so I have no idea what's going on, but then she's upset with me. Previously, I would have done everything possible. Like when I became aware of her feelings around something that I had no idea happened, I would do everything. I would literally bend over backwards to make it better for her. But now I handle it completely differently. Now I won't take it on. Like to your point, I won't take that on because I it wasn't communicated to me. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even know about it right now if someone else in the family didn't tell me about
Yeah.
it. So this is not my job to take on. And I think for many of us, using your example, if it's somebody at work, we take that on and try to make it better because we don't want to upset anyone or whatever reason. We all just want to be liked and loved and accepted and want others to believe and feel like we're a good person. But someone else feeling like that doesn't make us not likable or a bad person or not nice or any of the things we're trying to fix.
Yeah. I had a coach once that used to say, "Is that your monkey?
Mm,
And if it's not your monkey, why are you putting it on your back?
yeah.
Not your
So,
monkey, KL. Let it go." That's always stuck with me. So it's your mom's monkey, not yours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, honestly, just being a coach has helped me navigate so much in my personal life that I wasn't even aware of, and
Mhm.
really teaching others how to have autonomy over their own lives as well, just in
Yeah.
in
It's
how.
harder with family. I know since I became a coach, my husband and daughter are like, "Stop coaching us." Even if I'm not coaching them, like I'll just ask a question and they assume that I'm coaching them. And I think it's a little more difficult with family.
Mm.
But again, just keep coming back to the inner work, which is where the big gifts are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm very aware of time, so I want to ask you a final question before asking how people can help people. Oh, I know what I want to ask you. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have asked you?
Oh gosh, no, this was just a lovely conversation. It just had a nice flow to it. No, I think we're good.
Okay, love it, love it. Where can people find you? How can people find out more about you? Where should we connect? All of the things. If someone wants to have a meeting on their calendar, the best meeting of the week is what you call it. How
Yeah.
can they get in touch with you?
So LinkedIn is the best place to find me. It's where I drop most of my resources. I'm also on Instagram, the KL Shaw, YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok, all the stuff. But LinkedIn is, I think, where it's at. If you're not on LinkedIn, you're not building your network on LinkedIn, and you're not building your brand. You're really missing an incredible opportunity to stand out here. So yeah, I'm happy to meet with anyone. As I said, I think I meet 20 people a week, and get on my calendar anytime. Happy to share.
I love it. KL, when you have your first meeting with KL, the subject line is your best meeting of the week. I will never forget that. And I realized that we connected exactly a year ago because I was looking through my inbox for something. We've only known each other a year. I feel like I've known you so much longer.
I know.
So
Yeah,
much.
that's so sweet. Yeah, a lot of people comment on that. My business coach, that's his highlight on the Calendly, and he told me I could steal it. So feel free to steal it. It's so fun. People always smile. We're like, "Oh my gosh, this really was the best meeting of my week."
I
Which
am so stealing it. I can't believe I haven't stolen it already.
yeah, please do. Feel free.
So fun, so fun. Well, thank you so much, Kale, for sharing your light and your love and your genius and your energy. You were so, I just love your whole vibe. It was really, really great hanging out with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now. Bye, Macy. Bye, Ricky. Bye, all the ladies and gentlemen who are paying attention but not talking to us in the chat. Bye for now.